Good evening, everybody. My name is Michael or Avi, and today we are discussing about America. The next video will be about the darknet, but this video is about the United States of America. New York City, Chicago, Los Angeles, Las Vegas, Miami, Houston, all of these beautiful towns are feeling the effects of the coronavirus. And YouTube has... well, there's been a few updates with YouTube, so we're also going to make a video on YouTube, and I guess Darknet will come after YouTube because YouTube has gone crazy, both with demonetization and removing videos because the employees have gone home due to coronavirus, but that is another topic. There's too much information with there. So America does not have enough hospital beds. New York City's already turning away patients. The government has conflicting information, and everybody's freaking out. There's not enough tests. There's not enough ventilators. There's not enough respirators. There's not enough equipment. There's more and more patients every single day. And while Poland has its own problems, I understand. Poland has always been having problems because they were taken over by many countries. Millions of Polish men and women have died during World War II. Tens of thousands have died during the Cold War, either shipped off to Siberia, imprisoned, tortured. Millions were affected. Millions lived in poverty for so many decades. And only now, over the past 30 years, has Poland been able to try and catch up to Germany and the United Kingdom, and they've been doing a pretty good job. It's still going to be a few more decades before everything's nice and perfect, but I am embarrassed by how America has treated its citizens. I am a proud American. I love my country. I love my president. I love the government. There are many issues with healthcare, with how the government is reacting to veterans, how the government's reacting to this crisis and other crises, the opioid epidemic, homelessness in certain cities where prices are just skyrocketing. There's a lot of issues, but America is supposed to be the civilized country. They're supposed to be one of the most powerful nations on the planet, and a virus has brought the economy down to its knees. Yesterday, March 16th, this is why I'm making this video. This is serious. This affects you. This affects me. This affects everybody you know. This affects the whole world. Yesterday was the worst date in modern history for economic activity for the Dow Jones, the New York Stock Exchange, NASDAQ, all of that. Yesterday, March 16th, 2020 beat out the Great Depression. It beat out 2008, the recession, obviously. It beat out many horrific days. Beat out days where there was war. It beat out days where there was famine. It beat out stuff from the 19th century when the country was still developing. Only one date was worse than yesterday. 33 years ago, 1987, forget about the internet, iPads, Uber, Airbnb, Facebook, everything you know, YouTube, see ya, goodbye. So only one date beat out yesterday. One of the worst days. This is history being written. But we're not going to be discussing economic activity. That is on my other financial cryptocurrency news channel. Link is in the description below. We are going to be discussing this for the next few weeks because this issue isn't just a 2-week issue. This crisis that we're currently going through, it will be ongoing for the next few months and maybe even 1 or 2 years. The effects of this will be felt all across the world, wherever you are, whether you're a male, female, old, young, it doesn't matter. This disease and the economic ripples will be felt everywhere. Schools, governments, military spending, technologies, companies, events, major sporting events, everything. And that was one of the longest intros I've had on this channel. So let's get into it. Hopefully everything is going to improve. Stay safe. And while you're enjoying your quarantine, if you're an introvert and you're just chilling at home watching Netflix and maybe YouTube videos, if you're new to this channel, welcome. Wash your hands, don't do anything stupid, and let's roll the intro. Let's get this started. So we begin, and there's been a lot of disinformation, there's been a lot of fake news, and there's been a lot of really horrible real news that should scare you. However, I don't want to make this a paranoid FUD, fear, uncertainty, doubt video, and everything is just chaos. We're going to be looking at some stories here. I'm going to have most of the links down in the description below. You can go through them yourselves. We're going to be looking at some of the title headlines here. And for me, it's just a little strange that in comparison, Poland, which has been through a lot of hardships, in certain scenarios, sure, the hospitals are a little worse than in America, but it's much easier for healthcare to roll through and everybody's going to get free healthcare. And during this time, people aren't worried that, oh no, I can't afford to go to the hospital like in America. They're more afraid that, okay, well, we're not going to have enough equipment. There's not going to be enough hospital beds. We don't really know what's going to be happening with the doctors. Doctors already on Facebook in Warsaw, one of the main cities. I'm in Warsaw, have been begging on Facebook for extra masks, extra equipment. Some are running out already. And this isn't just a Polish problem. This is happening all across Europe. Europe is the new epicenter of this epidemic. And that's going to be happening in America, if not already in certain hospitals. So it's not just a Polish problem. All of these same problems are happening in America. And some people are going to be like, well, the American hospitals are better than the Polish hospitals. The doctors are sometimes of the same quality, but sometimes they are of better use in America due to the technology. So if Polish doctors and Polish hospitals had the same technology, maybe things would be a little bit better. That's why for certain surgeries, sometimes people fly all the way to America, right? But these surgeries can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars, where in Poland, sometimes these surgeries are free. And one huge issue we're going to be discussing here, it doesn't matter what hospital you go to. Sure, some are going to be worse than others, but if there's not enough hospital beds, if there's not enough ICUs, if there's not enough gear for all these patients that are going to be coming in, that's why flatten the curve is constantly thrown around on Twitter and all these politicians. You got to flatten the curve. That does make sense to an extent. There's been a few articles written against flatten the curve. But the main idea that we need to do precautionary steps right now to prevent many others from falling victim to COVID-19. And ultimately, it doesn't matter where you are. If there's not enough hospital beds, you're just not going to get in. And some people are going to unfortunately die. Those are preventable deaths. So America doesn't have enough hospital beds to fight the coronavirus. To be fair, all countries don't have enough beds. However, some countries have more beds, and we're going to look through that. America doesn't have enough hospital beds. In many places, that shortage of beds is the result of state-level regulations known as Certificate of Need laws, or CON laws, that artificially limit the supply of medical equipment. And you're going to see this all over the place. Unfortunately, due to regulations, there's going to be thousands of Americans that are going to die. Things are slowed down, and in some cases, these regulations were made in the past to help prevent deaths, but in this case, with this epidemic, might actually cause more deaths. Those laws help politically powerful hospital chains limit regional competition and inflate healthcare costs, but they also create shortages of medical equipment that could prove disastrous during a pandemic. Certificate of Need laws are on the books in 35 out of the 50 states, but they differ from place to place. Their stated purpose is to keep hospitals from overspending and thus from having to charge higher prices to make up for unnecessary outlays of capital costs. That's coronavirus, I guess. But in practice, they mean hospitals must get a state agency's permission before offering new services or installing a new medical technology. Depending on the state, everything from the number of hospital beds to an installation of an MRI machine might go under review. In 28 states, hospitals must get state regulators' permission before adding beds. Bed space in nursing homes and long-term care facilities are also subject to regulations in 34 states. Specific medical equipment such as ventilators could be subject to CON laws. The United States has only 2.8 hospital beds per 1,000 people, so the US has 330 million people. Poland, on the other hand, has 38 million people, and 2.8 hospital beds per 1,000 people. That is worse than China, where it's 4.3 beds. In Italy, they have less than China. It's 3.2 hospital beds. Italy's just a disaster zone. If we look at the statistics right now, let's refresh this. It was just loaded a few minutes ago, but boom, already. There's been 7,896 deaths so far and 194,729 confirmed cases. But that number, in some countries, they estimate is already 10 to 20 times larger. Not all regions, because some countries aren't expanding exponentially to the same rate as others. They're containing it a little bit better. So China already went through that, and Singapore is going through a good containment. India, for multiple reasons, isn't affected as much as Europe is. Sri Lanka and Taiwan also have good measures. But in some areas of the world, it could be 1,000 people are confirmed, but there's really 10,000 and they're infecting more. 81,080 have recovered out of the 194,000. So that's a fair amount, and we do have to report about that. China is it's stuck underneath 81,000 for a while, and this has been like that for the past 2 weeks. So new cases 21, but deaths are constantly going up because there's a lot of sick people, right? Italy is just pumping out those numbers. It's 31,500 confirmed cases. Out of that, there's 2,000 medical staff. So a lot of doctors and nurses. And bless their hearts, they're doing a good service for Italy. They're saving many lives, and they're risking their own lives doing so. Total deaths has been 2,503. Iran, 16,000. Spain, 11.5. Germany's approaching 10,000. Same with South Korea, but Germany beat South Korea, which is new. As you can see, new cases 1,300 compared to South Korea's 84. South Korea is also doing a great job. France, 6,000. USA is approaching 6,000, and we've had 97 confirmed deaths, but maybe by the time this video is released over 100, because there was 11 new deaths over the past 24 hours. Switzerland is approaching 3,000. UK is still doing relatively good, but we have to look at the total cases per 1 million population. Italy is 521 per 1 million, so that's the highest over there. Iran is at 192. Spain is very high as well, 244. USA right now, since it has a huge population, one of the largest populations in the world, is at 17.3. China, it has also well over 1 billion people, so they're only at 56. But there are some countries that surprise you, like Switzerland or Norway, which are above 300 or they're approaching 300. So there's a fair bit of nations over 1,000. Denmark and Japan, if you include the Diamond Princess, is well over 1,000 as well. Canada and Australia are approaching 1,000. Oh, they're tied. And Poland is down here with 5 deaths, and all 5 so far have been confirmed elderly over the age of 57 with underlying health conditions. So one of the oldest out of those 5, I think, was 77 or 78 years old. But the median was like 60 something. So 221 confirmed cases. And actually in each country, I follow the Polish news, so I know that it's actually 230 something, because they always report it a few hours before this website does. So if we go all the way to the bottom, we can see the new countries, and here it says there's 163 countries and territories. So that's nearly almost all the countries and territories of the world. If you include all the territories, I mean, it gets confusing, but there's over 200. But countries, it's 190 something. This is just crazy. There's antibacterial gel that's 40 PLN, and usually it's like 5 or 10 PLN, but even at 40, it's brak so that there's not enough, and this is happening all over the world. Antibacterial gel is gone. Thankfully, the government of Poland, they own Orlen, which is a gas station. It's like BP or Shell. And they've been producing 5-liter bottles, and they reduced the price from 95 PLN to 49, and they started producing 1-liter bottles, which are 15 PLN. So if you compare 15 PLN for 1 liter, and this gel was 150, you can see a huge price difference. So that's helping some people. It's not enough, but it is helping. Yeah, this American hospital beds problem is crazy, because you'd expect, oh, America is this awesome country, and we've got a lot of money and a lot of power, and our hospitals are great. But the healthcare problem is huge, because not everybody has insurance. And if you don't have insurance, well, how expensive is it going to be to get treated? And even if you do have health insurance, you can go to the right hospital even that's in network, but the doctor is out of network. So you still end up paying thousands of dollars. An ambulance ride is thousands of dollars. I know this firsthand because I went to an American hospital twice, and both visits were in the 5-figure range, even though we had insurance. So my parents owed over $40,000 for one visit, even with health insurance. And you have crazy stories where people are crowdfunding hundreds of thousands of dollars. In Poland, even if you have to pay something for a private hospital, you know, a few $1,000s for an operation is way better than $100,000. South Korea had one of the best proportions here, where it had 12.3 beds for every 1,000 people. After the coronavirus outbreak in Wuhan, a new hospital with 1,000 beds was built in less than 2 weeks, 10 days. It would be nearly impossible to duplicate that feat in America, not because America lacks China's top-down authoritarian structure, where China, yes, the government, there's a lot of issues with it, but during an epidemic, after they have gotten past the propaganda denial stage, after they realized, oh my God, this is an actual problem and we need to control it, they went full out. Their military, their police, everybody just went full out. People were getting thrown in jail, people were getting arrested, people were quarantined, everything was under control at that point. And America, before we can get to that level, oh, there's so many rights and regulations, and it's going to take 10 times longer. But in this case, it's not because of the authoritarian government style. It's because of regulations, including those con laws, that routinely prioritize protectionism over health. In recent years, a con board in Virginia has blocked a hospital from building a needed neonatal intensive care unit because a nearby hospital complained about unwanted competition. And there is a video. I'm not going to link it because there's tons of these videos, and it's embarrassing. Even one was a month ago, or you know what? I'm going to link one just so you have a head start. Here you go. Why U.S. hospitals are closing. This was February 6, 2020. CNBC. That's one of the videos. And this is just sad. This is crazy. Right before the epidemic, there's a bunch of hospitals. Since 2010, 121 rural hospitals have closed, and the National Rural Health Association says more than 1/3 of all rural hospitals in the U.S. are at serious risk of shutting down. So in a time when we have a lack of hospital beds, hospitals are closing down, and that's going to kill people. That is literally going to take away American lives. I'm a proud American, but it is just embarrassing. And I know that our country can do better. I know that America, taking an example from some of these European nations, can learn, and hopefully in 10, 20 years, it's going to be some of these problems are going to be fixed, because these are complex issues, but I know it can do a heck of a lot better than it is currently. A similar board in Michigan tried to restrict cancer treatments for reasons that had nothing to do with medical efficiency or patient safety. It's all about the money, right? Even when there isn't a dangerous virus on the loose, con laws are bad for patients. In 2016, researchers found that hospitals in states with con laws have higher mortality rates. The average 30-day mortality rate for patients with pneumonia, exactly what we're going to be dealing with here, with COVID-19, heart failure and heart attacks in states with con laws is 2 to 5% higher, even after demographic factors. That's crazy. 2 to 5%. If you're talking about thousands of people, yeah, that's a lot of families. Hundreds and hundreds of families are going to be affected by that. It's disgusting. Governors and state lawmakers should suspend any con laws that might limit hospitals' ability to respond to the COVID-19 outbreak. It's likely too late to quickly expand the number of hospital beds, but removing these impediments to expand medical facilities should be a no-brainer. And here, for those who don't believe the 2.8 per 1,000 citizens, is a fact list from AHA.org, American Hospital Association, for 2020. Total number of U.S. hospitals, there's 6,146 hospitals across 50 states, and there's 5,198 for community hospitals, and the rest are federal government hospitals and non-federal psychiatric hospitals. So community hospitals, there's 1,300 for-profit hospitals, which obviously those are going to be, in this situation, in an epidemic, are going to be in worse conditions. Total staffed beds in all the U.S. hospitals is 924,107. Not even a million beds. 924,000 for 330 million individuals, of which around the world so far there's been 7,900 deaths, and there's 200,000 cases, and people are predicting some crazy numbers that millions and millions of Americans are going to need hospitalization. In Italy right now, they can't hospitalize enough people, and they're turning people away. In New York, I know this video is long, but hey, welcome to what's happening in March 17th, 2020. Coronavirus in New York, desperate for a test, they couldn't get one. 19 hours ago, city scrambles, this is about New York, city scrambles to add hospital beds as coronavirus casualties mount. There's 463 confirmed cases in the city alone. 4 new facilities with at least 1,200 beds will be created in the next 2 weeks. It's not enough, but it's a good start. The city has rented 250 rooms in 5 hotels for people to be quarantined. That's also a good start. Even if enough beds can be created, it's unclear if the city will have enough doctors or nurses to care for everyone who's sick. The city is asking retirees to go back to work and may authorize students to provide care. The military is being called in for medical units, and the city is expecting to call in other doctors and nurses from other states to help out New York City. I wanted to compare 924,000 hospital beds, of which less than 100,000 are intensive care beds. There's 97,776, where those will be very important because a few percent out of all those infected with coronavirus will need intensive care, at least for 2 to 4 weeks for some of these projections. This is Poland. This is 2017, and we did go down from 255,168 to 251,537 in 2017. The number could be a little different now in 2020, could be a little higher, could be a little lower. Let's just say it's 250,000 beds. That's a heck of a lot different than 924,000. And this is for a country that, in simple terms, is 1/10 of the size of America. It's 38 million compared to 330 million. And America doesn't even have 1 million beds, while Poland has over 1/4 So if Poland was the size of America with these rates, we'd have a couple million beds. A country that is much poorer and has had less time to prepare for crises because it's been dealing with its own crises for so many decades. America's been fighting wars abroad, but there's been a lot of issues back home. Here's a mask where I was just looking at it because it went up in price. Wuhan virus. Investors and product sellers look to profit from new coronavirus in China, and this is happening all across the world. We have some good news. First human trials of coronavirus vaccine could start within days in the U.S. after it bypassed animal testing and accelerated processes. They're going to work on humans. It could be bad. It could be it could be necessary. Hopefully all the best. Over half of the coronavirus patients in intensive care in the Netherlands are under 50 years old. The US needs a lot more hospital beds to prepare for a spike in coronavirus cases. France has double what America has. Germany has more than double. One thing you also need to look at, all these hospitals, they have people inside. It's not like they're empty. There's people who have broken legs. There's people who are suffering from heart attacks, strokes. There's people who need to go under surgery. There's a lot of beds that are being used up in America, and there's a lot of ICUs that are being used up. So suddenly you have people who are coming in infected, and if they also infect the doctors and nurses, this is why it's really, really bad. There's people who are comparing it to the flu. Oh, the flu's, worse in some cases because it's got more numbers, but the flu's not going away. The flu and coronavirus, well, both of those are going to put people into the hospitals. Obviously, one's worse than the other because of the death rates. So once you have both, in conjunction, you're going to have even less hospital beds. Social distancing could help hospitals manage patient care, so that's good. But according to the Harvard Global Health Institute, the coronavirus could end up causing between 10 million and 34 million hospital visits, and about a fifth of those patients will require intensive care. Here's the whole flatten the curve thing. Other good news, a Berlin biotech company got a head start on coronavirus. They have made kits with 4 million tests since the outbreak has begun. And this article is from a while ago. It's from March 12th. Everyone here is putting in 12 to 14-hour shifts. 40,000 coronavirus diagnostic test kits for around $180 a piece that can provide for 4 million individual tests. South Korea has tested more than 210,000 people, and Italy has tested more than 60,000. US, well, they got off to a rocky start. They didn't have enough tests. There was only a few states that had access to these tests, and the rest, it was just a disaster, but it's catching up. Australian supermarket Woolworths will open its doors exclusively to the elderly and people with disabilities for a dedicated shopping hour after panic buying due to their coronavirus. Yeah, this is crazy. People were fighting over toilet paper in Australia, but it's not just there. Oregon Police Department asked people to stop calling 911 for toilet paper. This is just crazy. Shoppers charged over toilet brawl. This was at the Woolworths. So that's why I looked it up. As U.S. fumbles COVID-19 testing, the WHO, World Health Organization, warns social distancing is not enough. Latest coronavirus testing glitch, not enough cotton swabs. Oh man, it's all over the place. U.S. hospital uses 5 months worth of supplies in 6 days as shortages hit. New York Governor Cuomo, I'm telling you, this state government cannot meet this crisis without the resources and capacity of the federal government. We need their help, especially on the hospital capacity issue. We need FEMA. 18% of U.S. workers have lost jobs or hours since the coronavirus hit, poll finds. Here is some data from Italy. So this is from a while ago. This is from 7 days ago. Italy coronavirus death toll soars by 133 in a day. And a few days ago, I think it was 2 days ago, it was near 400 deaths in a single day. So it's gone a little bit down in terms of the deaths, but there's still a lot of people, hundreds of people dying every single day. And out of that, in Italy, we did find that most of the people were 80 to 89-year-olds, and they compared 2 days, and both of these days had similar. But this is just for 2 days in Italy. This chart specifically for 1 day. And certain areas of the world, we have people who are 20-29, 30-39, 10-19. Some do have underlying health conditions, but others are dying because unfortunately the hospitals aren't prepared for them. Most, however, are 80, 89, 90, and 70, 79, and we do have a fair amount, 60, 69, and 50, 59 in other countries who have underlying health conditions. So this is why you should be careful for your parents and grandparents. Tell them to stay home. CoinMarketCap, we see that cryptos have been going through a lot, but we're going to be discussing that on my cryptocurrency channel. So if you'd want to find out how COVID-19 has affected cryptocurrencies and the stock market, because the Dow Jones is at 20,000. Are we in a recession? Well, you're going to have to find out on Kubera, so check that out. It looks like it's been a little bit better, but we were so close right there. Oh, it fell below 20,000. It was at 19,993. However, we're also going to be discussing very shortly on this channel, he has 17,700 bottles of hand sanitizer, nowhere to sell them, about mask hoarders and how people, dropshippers included, were trying to make money off of the coronavirus. Lots of scandals. Lots of information in this video, so thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, I want you to stay safe at home, wash your hands for 30 seconds, stock up, order stuff online if you can, food, all of that, get some money for the next few months because this will last more than a few weeks. And if you're rich and you want to support this channel and you're like, you know what, screw this, I want to support everything, check out Wizio.com if you'd like to get my quick opinion or an opinion on drugs, darknet, cryptocurrency, or even how to create a YouTube channel. You can also support your favorite influencers because there's more and more coming to Wizio every single day. That's it for today's video. Thanks for staying tuned. If you watch the whole thing, wow, you're crazy. Don't get too paranoid. Just get prepared. See you, bye.